I'm Alan Leonard, and this is the Lab 1 for my Introduction to Networks. So for part 1, we had a question that was list 3 different protocols that we had appear in the protocol column when we were doing the Wireshark. The 3 that I listed specifically was TCP, MDNS, and NBNS, which is Transmission Control Protocol, Multicast DNS, and NetBIOS Name Service. I also did list a few others that I saw, like LLMNR and DHCP v6, which are just a few of the others that I also saw when I scrolled down. For question 2, it asked about how long it took between the HTTP GET and the HTTP OK reply. It was like both received. From what I found, there was about less than 1 second, so about 0 seconds basically. But after looking at the exact, it was 0.131 second difference. Question 3 was what were the internet addresses and what was the internet address of my computer. For the system, I found a long IP address, which I listed, and for mine, I listed my own IP address that it saw. That being like 128.119.245.12 and then 10.2.1.179 respectively. Last question of part 1 was then print out the HTTP messages, and I did so. And using specifically what they wanted for the selected packet only, and print as displayed, and then I converted it to a PDF, and then converted that to a JPEG, and then put it into the PDF you are reading now. For part 2, we had a lot of different questions across it, so I'll be trying to go through them as easily as I can without going super into detail because of how many pictures I had to go with most of them. For question 1, it was asking if my browser was running HTTP version 1.0 or 1.1. I found 1.1 for both the server and for my browser, which I posted a picture with highlights. For number 2, what languages? The only languages I could really see were HTML. Number 3 was what was the IP address of my computer and the server. Listed those on the destinations and had highlights over those as well. For question 4, what's the status code returned from the server to the browser? Found the status code 200 when looking through the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, the HTTP, and then also found the status code description being OK. This would also be listed in the packet list, but I decided to do a picture of the specifics into it. Question 5, when is the HTML file that you were retrieving last modified the server? Found the last modified part being that exact day, Monday, February 10th, at about 6:59 GMT time, which I don't exactly know how exactly it translates to our current time. Question 6, how many bytes of content were being returned to the browser? I found 128 and sent a picture. Question 7, when inspecting the raw data packet, do I see any headers within the data that were not displayed in the packet listing window? The most I can say was I was unsure, but I put the line-based text data because that wasn't listed in the packet listing window itself. For the next questions, question 8, inspect the contents and after doing this new search using after clearing the cache, so we could have the first set and then also the second set, with the second one not giving us the original data because it was already received from the first time. The first, question 8, did not see an if modified since line, at least in the HTTP GET, for when I was looking through it. For question 9, did the server explicitly return the contents of the file? Yes, because I found the exact text data in the line-based text data for that. Question 10 was when we refreshed or went back to that exact same site, found that the if modified statement or if modified since line was actually active this time, and gave extra instructions with using referrals instead of actual downloading the content again. Question 11, what was the status code and phrase returned this time? The difference being this time was a 404 instead of a 200 like the first one came through with. And this is because of how the data was cached. and allowed us to just have a referral over to it instead of having to re-download it all again, which is why we had to delete our cache, so we didn't have the site from the first part. Then we go to the third part, a third set of questions from part 2. Question 12 was, one second, make sure I have this correct. This was the Bill of Rights, I believe. Yes, this was the Bill of Rights section. For question 12, how many HTTP GET messages did I receive? Had 2 separate GET messages, as it seemed that one was not enough to contain all the stored data. And the first one was the one containing the majority of the Bill of Rights section, which I even sent a screenshot of it with the line-based text data, including the very top of the title, historical documents, the Bill of Rights. Question 13, which packet number in the trace contains the status code and phrase associated with the response to that first GET? Found that it was status code 200, and response was okay in the line number 78. And this was found in the packet list, where it had like the 4 to 6 different packets. It had, you know, the different GETs and also the different server responses. Question 14 was the status code and phrase. It was 200 in this one, and it was different in the second one, in the second response. Question 15, how many data containing TCP segments were needed to carry the HTTP response and the text of Bill of Rights? I found 4 in this included one, and I included a screenshot of this that had the exact count of segment count 4 for all of the bytes and everything. This goes to the part 4, or 4th set of questions. Number 16, how did the GET request message did your browser send? This was when it was asking about the different pictures. There were 4 HTTP messages sent, or HTTP GET messages sent, and they were all sent to the exact same address, otherwise known as the Wireshark HTML site. And there was also a request for my own, for a second, not my own, by a second different IP address, which was not part of the GET request, but was a OCSP protocol, which I believe is the request going in afterwards for those images for the file, or for the site. Question 17 was, can you tell whether the browser downloaded 2 images serially or whether they were downloaded from the 2 websites in parallel? I believe they were downloaded serially, just because of the fact that these came afterwards and going through those different ones. I also included a screenshot, I believe, for this one to show this off that I was looking at, from 135 to 138, I believe, was the different frames. Last 2 was 18 and 19, and this was about a specific password site we had to do. We destroyed the cache that we had, like cleared the history, and then had to reopen the browser and everything. For this, the first initial response that I got was the HTTP GET message of being unauthorized with the status code 401. This is because it was asking for the password and the login information. Afterwards, the second GET, though, had a new field added on after we'd responded with the correct information, and that was the last modified, ETAG, and accepted ranges, which was not in the initial one. And I believe, looking at, I don't know if, I sent a picture of both, but I don't know if you could compare from the 2 pictures. The first picture being from question 18, showing the status code and everything. The second picture being on question 19, showing the newly added stuff to the fields included. But overall, it was showing how we were not given all the access to the information on the site, and overall, after including that, it did a second GET and gave us it. Thank you.